Another question.
So what other countries besides Africa are we related to?
That's an excellent question. The question is, what other countries other than Africa? We're related to everybody on Earth because we're all a human being. Even we're related to white people, but they are distant cousins. You see, science will prove out what I'm saying. Everybody that's on the Earth emanated from West Africa. They went to, like, the Olmecs were black people in Mexico. The first Mexicans were black, called Olmecs, O-L-M-I-C. They dated back to about 1200 BC. Now, once we understand that, we understand why many of the Mexicans are brown, tan, and even black. And if you didn't know that, you'd think it had to do with the contemporary slaves, but they were like that many, many years ago. And the question was, yeah, and they are related to Africans. All right, the other group of people that came to America came from Africa by way of India. Now, 2000 BC, everybody in India, you know where India is located, right?
Yes, sir.
Were black, just like they were in Africa. Now, once we understand that, we understand why a lot of the folk who are working here have brown skin. Some have real dark brown skin, and I've seen some black myself, because the original people of India were black. They are kin people, you see? Yeah. And what caused them not to be black, all of black, is because after the Ice Age, the Aryans, that was the white people, they called themselves Aryans, they came down and did what they do best. Take war and kill the men and have babies by the women. That's a fact. And that brought up this complexion of people that have here today. Yes, so all of us are related, but the darker you are, the closer you are to the original people. And we should be proud of it, but we were taught to dislike that because that melon has more to it than meets the eye. We're going to have a whole session on melon. See, melon gives you more energy. The people who have melon are naturally healthier. It's so many things. It even deals with the intellect. The white scientists know this, but they don't want you to know it. See, because they want you to feel that you are a second-class human being to this very day.
Do you believe in having a religion?
I don't, but they exist. We got to contend with religion. See, I have been a part of religion all my life, and a religion is an organization made by man for the purpose of controlling mankind. It has its place, but spirituality is the part of the creation of a human being, and that's a 24/7 thing. So you worship God 24/7, but in religion you have a day for it. You see? But it's better than nothing. Don't misunderstand me, because you have an organizational structure. You teach folks the golden rule, but the bottom line is to teach them to do what you want them to do, rather than what God wants them to do. You see?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it should be eliminated. But those of us who are part of it need to understand that much of what they're telling us is not going to help us. We got to reach God. In other words, you cannot be saved by being a part of a denomination. Yeah. You cannot be helped other than traditionally the church helped individuals. They don't do that anymore. See, the tithe, the tenth, was in the Old Testament. The Europeans got them a New Testament because they didn't like the Old Testament. They got them a New Testament. That was done under the leadership of the Catholic Church. Let me say this about the Catholics before we leave. You've heard of Vatican City? Vatican City is in Italy. I didn't know until I started studying that that was a nation. See, the Vatican is in Italy, but it's not a part of Italy. It is a little old nation that the Pope is the president, and the cardinals is the cabinet, and they have about as much power as any nation. That little bitty group of people, very powerful, the wealthiest group in the world, and they got their wealth mostly through the slave experience. We need to know that. They blessed folks to go out and enslave people, and they got a tithe paid off. In our Spanish lesson, we were talking about Montezuma. Montezuma was a king of Mexico when one of the explorers came in, and they gave them a lot of gold and silver in order that they thought they would leave, but they said, if they got that much to give us, let's go take it all. So they went back and killed Montezuma and took it all. So they took boatloads of gold and gave the Catholic Church. And whatever that religious, most of the Catholic was in charge, they gave them money. And that's one reason the Catholic Church is so wealthy. But we don't know that because we don't study, and they come and build schools, and they build it in school and set up a school in order to train you what they want you to be, and other than what they want, what God wants you to be.
Do you think Africans made the first journey to America before Christopher Columbus?
Oh my God, thousands of years. Yeah, Christopher just got here by accident. He was trying to go to China. He was trying to go to, he was going to the east, and the wind blew him over. He didn't know he was over here. He went back and told folks he was in India. That's why we call them Indian. But keep in mind, Africans are dated to be in America 1,200 years BC, before Christ, the Olmecs. Those are the oldest ones that I've studied. The Olmecs are the oldest people from Africa to reach this country, 1200 AD. And that's where the Aztecs came out of, and the down in South America, what is the Indian group called? The Incas. The Aztecs and the Incas came by way of the gene of the black Africans and other groups. I did study in Mexico, of course, and I was in a university once where they had this mural of these funny-looking people up there, and a white scholar, white lady, American white lady was in the class. She asked the Mexican teacher, she said, "Are that mural, is those people Orientals?" He said, "No, those are Africans." And then he explained, this professor explained, he said, "We are first Africans, and what other groups?" The word Mexican means mixcla. Mezcla is where Mexican come from. They said, we are mixed people, but we are African first. This man knew that. And I also did a little research, and I found out that they had a whole encyclopedia of Africa. Those educated Mexicans know more about Africa than educated African Americans. They know more about it because they have more in the record. We had about that much in a little encyclopedia when I was a kid. You know what an encyclopedia is, right? Now we don't use it much because we have these CDs and all this stuff here.
Now at this point in the conversation, Dr. Hobbs opened the floor to students in the classroom so that they can discuss subjects that were important to them, those including religion and heritage. Of course, the students were not mic'd, so I'll be asking the questions for them. And one of the questions was, how and where should we connect with original spirituality and religion? Here's Dr. Hobbs' response.
That's going to be quite a challenge, but it's got to come from you younger people who are not brainwashed with what I call the trickology of Christology. See, they tricked us because by nature you're spiritual. You can't help that. And the enemy knew that, and they are not spiritual. They are strictly academic, but we are spiritual. And there's an advantage in being spiritual because you have discernments and feelings. They don't have that. It's just not there. And another nickname for it is rhythm, you see. They just don't have it because it comes out of your melon. If you don't have melon, you can't have that, okay? They lost that in that transition. Now the question might be, well, what about us who are lighter? If you got some darkness in you, you got enough melon to do it. That's the blessing. But the darker you are, the more blessed you are, and that's what we got to start teaching. But back to your question, it got to take young preachers. You're not going to change these old preachers, because it's an economic thing for them. It's a business. Many of them know what I'm talking about, but they don't want to change because they'll lose their job. You give them it's money, honey. That's what it's all about. They know that they're faking and jiving, but they just don't want you to know it.
Another question from a student was about religion and spirituality. He asks, is it better to self-examine it or view it as another entity or holistic view? Here's Dr. Hobbs' answer.
That's where self. See, that's where we have a problem as a people. We don't know ourselves. You got to do the self-examination first, and that's what we're all about here, is once you go into self, then you're actually going into God because God is within you as well as out there. Now, God is everywhere, but that's not the God that you want to deal with. Our ancestors knew how to reach to God because the God was with them all the time. But the enemy taught you to find him out there, and they told you Jesus Christ was God. And that's the biggest lie ever been told. See, Jesus Christ has never said he was God. You can't find anyone in the Bible where Jesus Christ said he was God. But see, our folks couldn't read and write. And the people that were enslaved them were master liars. Understand? It's just a fact. So they told them things that made sense to their mind because they didn't know, but they knew they were spiritual. And see, as long as you believe that Jesus Christ is God and you pray to Jesus Christ who is not God, you can't get no help from God. That's the main purpose of that. You understand? I love Jesus. Can't nobody do me like Jesus. You're feeling good, but you get no help from the Creator. Because Christ said he was the Son of Man, didn't he? He said he was the Son of Man. He never said he was the Son of God. But the enemy taught us out of slavery that he was the Son of God. And if you study, you find out it took the Catholic Church 500 years to agree on that lie. Because a lot of the Catholics said, that's not going to work. So no, we got to make sure that they believe that that Mary's baby is all that stuff. That's not true. They made that up. You understand? They made it up. He was a powerful person, but he was flesh and blood like me and you. And he told you to pray our Father, didn't he? He included himself right along with other people. And he said, that will become those greater than I. But you never be greater than I if the man make you think Christ, Jesus, was the creator, that he was his daddy. If you start thinking a little bit, it doesn't make sense, right? If he was the creator, then he was his own daddy, wasn't he? He was his father. When he went in the Garden of Gethsemane, did he pray to himself? He prayed to the Creator. Let this cup pass. He wasn't talking to himself. He was talking to the Creator. So that's what you got to do. You got to go within and find out the truth. And now within, you only find out your nature, but you got to go into books, literature, and history to find out what we're talking about.
Another question from a student was, how do you acknowledge your ancestors and your culture?
First of all, it's to study. And that's what the Europeans do not want you to know. See, voodoo is a natural religion, one of the ancient religions of Africa. And it's not what they put on the screen. They made fun of it by making us walk around cutting chicken heads off and doing a lot of crazy stuff. And the history of that basically goes back to Haiti in the West Indies. They maintained much of the knowledge of voodoo, whereas the Europeans were able to destroy most folks that had the knowledge. The priests, they killed all they could find, okay, because they knew that religious people were so powerful and they didn't understand it, so they killed them. But some made it to Haiti. You know the story of Napoleon Bonaparte, right? Napoleon was a European general that was one of the greatest generals of his era. He was like, that was like the United States, France was like the United States of that day. He sent his soldiers down his army down to Haiti to conquer America. He conquered all over there, overseas. And those few little Haitians whipped him to death. Well, he got out of there. And they did it with their religion. They didn't have the weapons to fight him, but they had the mind, they had the spiritual mind. And see, they were able to tune into spirituality that they didn't, to the Creator. They had a way of connecting. So I think what they did, they confused them. They had some way of confusing them and making them, maybe shoot one another and all that kind of stuff. And they said, we better get out of here. Something's wrong here. And they went on back to Europe, boy. But what happened was, and this is very important to understand, Haiti is one of the poorest countries in this hemisphere. Did you know that? There's a reason for it. See, it's the only country that liberated themselves. Everybody else in this hemisphere that was slaves, the slavers gave them their freedom, even though it was through war and struggle. They gave it to them. But nobody gave the Haitians their freedom. They beat up the folks who had them enslaved and became free. Then the white people punished them by not allowing trade to go to them. to this very day. You all need to know that because the USA government is still punishing them to this very day, but they're smiling. They're doing the smiling. They're sending aid down there, and they're very strict people. So you have to open up your mind to understand that they, to this very day, let's suppose that most of our people knew what I'm saying. We have enough wealthy black folks to make that a beautiful place, resort, all kind of business, but we don't know this, so what we're doing, well, I'm taking my family to France next year. Oh, this is a black person, you know, got $700 million. He's over there giving it back to the people. I'll be glad when they leave. We got to deal with it like it is. We got to make it real, you understand? So I'm hoping this generation will understand what I'm saying, organize your people, and be recognized by the world.
This question was, how do you connect to your heritage as black Israelites and Hebrews?
It's going to take a lot of help from people like me who are studying. See, most of us don't have any knowledge of what you're talking about. The average Christian preacher would get angry with you if you even talk about it. Boy, what you going, lost your mind, you know. Now, first of all, it takes time. Most of us, even young people like you I admire you for seeking, but you don't even know who the Israelites were because you just got a piece of it. Much of what we know about the Israelites was not real. We need to first understand that. We need to understand that I have a book in my office sometime we can come out and look at called the Book of the Dead. That's what the Greeks call it. But the Africans who wrote the book, this is the first documentation about God and creation was done by the African scholars, and it was called the Book of Enlightenment. That's what they called it, but they called it the Book of the Dead because they talked about what happened after you die in the process. And they took, and it was mainly after the whites came on the scene, I'm going to pronounce it the best I can to start with. The Alcalish white Germans became Jewish, joined the Jewish religion. See, 70 A.D. was when the Romans ran the Jews out of Israel, ran them out. And they scattered throughout the world, okay? So you're talking about somebody scattered, went back in, you know, most went to Africa, but some went to Europe, and the Sephardists went to Europe by way of Spain, the Sephardists. But the main Jewish people are not of Abraham. They are called the Akalashis or something like that. They were converted into Judaism because these white people knew that those folks had a thing going on and they wanted to learn about it, so they got in there and learned. They had a lot of power, and they learned that, and the black Jew knew how to do business and make money. You understand? They got that. And then the dark Jew lost power because the Romans had run them out and scattered them. You understand? Those are called, Israelites means all of the 12. There was 12 tribes of Israel. You know who Israel was, right? Do you? Israel was one man, right? Named Jacob. And at a point in time, his name changed to three African gods' name. Israel comes from the three African gods' name. Isaac, Ra, and El, Israel. So that's something to study right there. But anyway, you're talking about a group of 12. Well, they are mixed and scattered everywhere. But the Jewish group kept more identity than just the people of Israel. I believe you said Israelites, right? It's hard to identify who an Israelite is, but we do know the folks who in Israel, they are not the Israelites. They are converts, and they are the ones who run the world. They control money, and it's 40 families. Once there was 40 families of those people control all money that white folks handle. Not owning all money, but the Federal Reserve is controlled by them. It was organized by them. They were great bankers. Is that making any sense? See, it's got a little, it's so broad what you're asking. And a lot of you are happy to be Israelites because you can trace something back to something biblical, but the Israelites are just scattered everywhere, but they are people black. Now, a lot of folks think most of the folks of South Africa were Israelites. See, a lot of them went out in South Africa, not South Africa, West Africa. A lot of the Israelites went out there, but they were hard to find because they were black. They went back among the black people, you see what I'm saying? And the ones who went to Europe interbred into the white people, and after 900 some years, they've pretty well lost their identity. Most of their, like Einstein was Jewish. He was from that group. You know, you've seen the picture of Einstein, have you? Had stringy hair, a lot of hair on his head. It wasn't straight like other white people. That was that black blood in him. That generation, but the younger ones, like along with you, they look like most other white people.
And the final question was, how do Indians that originated from America connect with Africa?
All right, it's this. You see, the first people of the Americas in the southern part were Africans. The first explorers from Africa were Olmecs. You with me? So they came over and they dated them back to 1200 AD. They came into that part of South America, Central America, and that area. Now, the other group came by way of India, China, across the Bering Straits, and came in by way of Alaska. They were lighter. They had, over 1,000 years, they had become lighter by mixing with the lighter people, but they were not white. So they came down, and those folks met in time over the 1,000 years and interbred. And that came up with this blend, but only one group of Indians look white, is that's called the Cherokee. And the reason the Cherokee Indian, some of them can cut their hair short and dress and look like a kind of a red white man, is because it is said that in the 2000 AD, the Norsemen got lost over here from Europe, and they found signs of them being in that part of the Native Americans that call themselves Cherokees. Their blood is into those guys. So those guys are white, but the rest of them are brown and black.
That concludes this episode of The School Without Walls. Stay tuned to this channel for more content and episodes of this program. I'm Frederick Price. We hope to see you next time. Have a good day.